Commander Jake Morrison stared at the stars through the viewport of the USV Nighthawk. The ship drifted silently through space like a ghost among the distant suns. Beside him, Lieutenant Kate Sullivan checked the navigation systems for the third time in an hour. Her fingers moved across the control panel with practiced ease, but Jake could see the tension in her shoulders. The Nighthawk was humanity's most advanced stealth ship. Its hull absorbed radar waves and bent light around its edges, making it nearly invisible to enemy sensors. For 2 years, Jake and his crew had used this technology to watch alien civilizations from the shadows. They were the eyes of Earth Command, sent to observe and report without ever making contact. Today's mission was supposed to be routine. The Kepler 442 system had shown signs of intelligent life for months. Long-range telescopes detected large structures on the fourth planet, and radio signals suggested an advanced civilization. Earth Command wanted a closer look before deciding how to approach these new aliens. Captain Lisa Bennett sat at the tactical station behind them. Her job was to monitor all sensor readings and watch for any signs of danger. She had been doing this work longer than anyone else on the ship. Her calm voice had guided them through dozens of missions without a single incident. Dr. Amy Foster worked at the science station near the back of the bridge. She studied alien languages and cultures, trying to understand how different species thought and communicated. Her knowledge had helped prevent several misunderstandings during previous missions. Today, she listened to alien radio transmissions through her headphones, her face growing more concerned with each passing hour. Lieutenant Ben Carter was down in the engine room, making sure their cloaking system worked perfectly. The young engineer had improved their stealth technology beyond what the designers thought possible. His modifications let them get closer to alien worlds than any human ship before them. As they approached the fourth planet, Jake began to understand why Dr. Foster looked worried. Even from this distance, he could see massive structures orbiting the world. These were not research stations or peaceful colonies. They were military shipyards on a scale that made Earth's naval bases look like small workshops. Kate adjusted their course to get a better view. The ship's sensors began collecting detailed information about the alien installations. What they found made Jake's stomach tighten with fear. The aliens were not just building ships for exploration or trade. They were constructing weapons of war. Hundreds of vessels filled the orbital shipyards. Each one bristled with weapon systems that Earth scientists had only dreamed of creating. Energy cannons the size of skyscrapers pointed into space, ready to destroy anything that threatened the planet. Fighter craft swarmed around the larger ships like angry insects protecting their hive. Lisa's voice was steady, but Jake could hear the concern beneath her calm tone. The energy readings from the planet below were off the charts. Massive power plants fed the shipyards and weapon systems. Ground-based installations covered entire continents, all focused on military production. Dr. Foster removed her headphones and turned to face the command crew. Her translation of the alien communications painted an even darker picture. The beings called themselves Zephyrians, and they spoke constantly of conquest and expansion. Their radio signals mentioned other species they had defeated and worlds they had claimed. But what made Jake's blood run cold were the references to the soft species beyond the void and the watchers who think they remain unseen. The Zephyrians knew about humanity. They had detected Earth surveillance missions and were preparing for war. Ben's voice crackled through the ship's communication system from the engine room. He had been monitoring their cloaking field and noticed unusual fluctuations in the local space environment. Solar activity from the system's star was interfering with their stealth technology. They needed to move to a safer position or risk being detected. Jake ordered Kate to adjust their position, but as they maneuvered away from the planet, something went wrong. A massive solar flare erupted from the system's star, sending waves of charged particles through space. The electromagnetic pulse hit the Nighthawk like an invisible hammer. For exactly 3.7 seconds, their cloaking field failed completely. In that brief moment, the ship became visible to every sensor in the system. Jake watched in horror as alarm signals began flashing across the alien shipyards. The Zephyrians had seen them. Lisa's tactical display lit up with dozens of new contacts. Zephyrian warships were launching from the orbital platforms, their engines glowing bright as they accelerated toward the human vessel. The aliens moved with military precision that spoke of long experience in warfare. Dr. Foster intercepted the alien communications as their fleet mobilized. The Zephyrian commander was not ordering his ships to simply destroy the human vessel. Instead, he wanted it captured or followed. The aliens recognized that the human ship represented advanced technology, and they wanted to learn where it came from. Ben restored their cloaking field, but the damage was done. The Zephyrians had recorded their position, energy signature, and ship design. Even worse, the aliens were using some kind of tracking technology that humanity did not understand. Despite being invisible again, Jake knew they were still being hunted. Kate plotted a course out of the system, pushing the Nighthawk's engines to maximum power. Behind them, the Zephyrian fleet gave chase with a determination that suggested this was more than just curiosity. These aliens had been preparing for war with humanity, and now they had found their target. As they jumped into hyperspace, Jake realized their simple observation mission had become something much more dangerous. They were no longer silent watchers hiding in the darkness. They were now the hunted, carrying vital intelligence about an enemy that Earth Command did not even know existed. The stars stretched into lines as the Nighthawk fled through space. But Jake knew their troubles were just beginning. The Zephyrians were coming, and humanity was not ready for what was about to happen. The hyperspace jump should have taken them to safety, but when the Nighthawk dropped back into normal space, Jake Morrison knew they were still in terrible danger. Kate Sullivan's navigation display showed their position 3 light-years from the Zephyrian system, but the tactical sensors were already detecting pursuit ships closing in on their location. Admiral Vextar commanded the Zephyrian fleet from his massive flagship, the Doom's Edge. Unlike many military leaders who stayed safely behind the lines, Vextar led his forces from the front. He had studied the brief sensor readings of the human vessel and recognized technology far more advanced than his intelligence. Reports had suggested that the human ship had vanished completely for over 2 years while conducting surveillance operations. Its cloaking technology was superior to anything the Zephyrian military possessed. More importantly, the humans had been watching his people for an unknown period of time, gathering intelligence about their military capabilities and strategic plans. Vextar made a decision that would change the course of galactic history. Instead of simply destroying the human scouts, he would capture them and use them to find their homeworld. The soft species had revealed themselves too early, and now they would pay the price for their curiosity. Jake ordered Ben Carter to push their engines beyond safe operating limits. The young engineer worked frantically in the power core chamber, rerouting energy from life support systems to give them more speed. Every additional kilometer per hour might mean the difference between escape and capture. Lisa Bennett monitored the pursuing ships from her tactical station. The Zephyrian vessels were fast, but the Nighthawk had been designed for exactly this kind of emergency. Their experimental drive system could outrun most known spacecraft, assuming it did not tear itself apart under the strain. Dr. Foster continued intercepting alien communications, trying to understand what the Zephyrians planned to do if they caught the human ship. What she learned made her hands shake as she typed her translation notes. The aliens were not just chasing one reconnaissance vessel. They were mobilizing their entire military fleet for something much larger. The pursuit continued through 3 star systems. Each time Jake thought they had lost their hunters, more Zephyrian ships appeared from hyperspace. The aliens seemed to know exactly where the human vessel was going, even when the Nighthawk changed course at random intervals. Kate plotted jump after jump, trying to lose their pursuers in the maze of stellar navigation routes. But no matter which direction they fled, the Zephyrians followed with frightening accuracy. It was as if the aliens could see through their cloaking technology and predict their movements. In the Perseus Nebula, Jake ordered a temporary halt to their flight. The dense gas clouds would interfere with most sensors, giving them a chance to analyze their situation and plan their next move. Ben used the time to run full diagnostics on their stealth systems, looking for any malfunction that might be giving away their position. What he found was worse than equipment failure. The Zephyrians had somehow attached quantum tracking devices to their hull during that brief moment when their cloaking field had failed. The alien technology was beyond human understanding, using principles of physics that Earth scientists had only begun to explore. Dr. Foster made the discovery that turned their desperate flight into a nightmare. The Zephyrian fleet was not just hunting them randomly through space. The aliens were following the Nighthawk's course, mapping every system they visited and every hyperspace route they used. The human ship was unintentionally providing a detailed navigation guide straight back to Earth and its colonies. Jake faced an impossible choice. If they continued fleeing toward human space, they would lead the entire Zephyrian military directly to Earth. But if they stopped running, the aliens would capture them and extract the same information through interrogation and computer analysis. Lisa suggested fighting their way out, but her tactical analysis showed the hopelessness of that option. The Nighthawk was a reconnaissance vessel with minimal weapons. The pursuing fleet included heavy cruisers and battleships designed for major combat operations. They would be destroyed in minutes if they tried to fight. Kate proposed jumping to random coordinates, hoping to lose their pursuers in the vastness of space. But Ben's analysis of the tracking technology showed that the quantum tracers could follow them anywhere within 50 light years. The aliens would find them no matter where they went. Dr. Foster intercepted a communication from Admiral Vextar to his fleet commanders that revealed the true scope of their situation. The Zephyrians had contacted their allies in other star systems. Word was spreading through the alien communication networks about the discovery of the human surveillance operation. Species that had never heard of humanity were now being told that a dangerous civilization had been secretly watching multiple alien worlds. The Zephyrians were painting humans as a threat to galactic security, and other alien governments were beginning to mobilize their own military forces. Jake realized that their reconnaissance mission had accidentally started something much larger than a simple pursuit. They were witnessing the birth of an interstellar alliance formed specifically to deal with the human threat. Every minute they remained in alien space gave the Zephyrians more time to build their coalition. Ben reported that their engines were showing signs of stress from the constant high-speed flight. They could not maintain their current pace much longer without risking a complete power system failure. If they were stranded in space, the Zephyrians would capture them easily. The decision Jake made in that moment would haunt him for the rest of his life. Rather than leading their enemies directly to Earth, he ordered Kate to plot a course for the abandoned colony world of New Geneva. The planet had been evacuated decades earlier due to atmospheric contamination, but its infrastructure remained intact. If they had to be followed somewhere, better to lead the Zephyrians to an empty world than to populated human colonies. At least on New Geneva, they might have a chance to make a stand or find some way to break free from their pursuit. As the Nighthawk jumped toward the abandoned colony, Jake looked at his crew and saw the same grim understanding in their eyes. They were no longer running away from their enemies. They were leading an alien invasion fleet directly to a human world, even if that world was empty. The hunt was far from over, and Jake began to suspect that they were not just being chased by curious aliens. The Zephyrians were treating this pursuit as the opening move in a much larger conflict, one that humanity did not even know had begun. New Geneva hung in space like a ghost of humanity's past ambitions. The planet's blue-green surface looked peaceful from orbit, but Jake Morrison knew the truth hidden beneath those deceptive clouds. Toxic gases had forced the evacuation of 50,000 colonists, leaving behind empty cities and abandoned dreams. The Nighthawk dropped out of hyperspace near the planet's outer moon. Kate Sullivan immediately began scanning the system for any signs of human activity, hoping against hope that someone had returned to reclaim the world. But the sensors showed only automated maintenance systems keeping the orbital platforms operational. Behind them, the Zephyrian fleet emerged from hyperspace like a pack of metal predators. Admiral Vextar's flagship led dozens of warships into the system, their weapons powered and ready for combat. The alien commander had expected to find a heavily defended human military installation, not an apparently deserted world. Lisa Bennett monitored the alien communications as the Zephyrian fleet took defensive positions around New Geneva. The aliens were confused by what they found. Long-range sensors detected massive infrastructure, orbital defense platforms, and what appeared to be military installations on the planet's surface. To Zephyrian eyes, it looked like a trap. Dr. Foster realized their terrible mistake as she listened to the alien fleet commanders discussing their tactical situation. The abandoned colony's automated systems were still functioning, maintaining defensive postures and running routine security protocols. The empty orbital platforms looked like hidden weapon systems to the suspicious aliens. Ben Carter detected energy signatures from the planet below that made his blood run cold. The Zephyrians were conducting detailed scans of every human installation they could find. The abandoned factories, empty military bases, and deserted research facilities were providing the aliens with a complete intelligence database about human technology and defensive strategies. Jake ordered the Nighthawk to land on New Geneva's surface, hoping to find some way to break free from the quantum tracers that were still attached to their hull. The ship touched down near the abandoned capital city of New Harmony, its empty streets and silent buildings a stark reminder of human vulnerability. Admiral Vextar brought his flagship into low orbit above the planet. The massive vessel cast a shadow over the abandoned city as it positioned itself for a detailed surface scan. The alien commander was no longer interested in just capturing the human scouts. He wanted to understand how this species had built such extensive defenses while remaining hidden from galactic civilization. Dr. Foster established communication with the Zephyrian flagship, using the universal mathematical signals that most spacefaring species understood. Her goal was to explain that New Geneva was abandoned, and that humanity posed no threat to alien civilizations. What she learned instead filled her with dread. The Zephyrians had been monitoring human radio transmissions for over 6 months. They had intercepted military communications, training exercises, and colonial defense protocols from dozens of human worlds. To the militaristic aliens, every routine defensive measure looked like preparation for galactic conquest. Vextar's voice came through the communication system with the mechanical precision of a military leader who had fought many wars. He spoke of humanity's surveillance network and advanced stealth capabilities as evidence of a species preparing for massive military expansion. Every word Dr. Foster translated made the situation worse. Kate accessed the abandoned colony's computer systems, hoping to find information that might help their situation. What she discovered made her hands shake as she read the classified files. New Geneva had been evacuated not just because of atmospheric poisoning, but because it had served as a testing ground for experimental weapons systems. The aliens were scanning facilities that had been used to develop humanity's most advanced military technology. Prototype weapons, shield generators, and defensive systems that Earth Command considered top secret were now being analyzed by an alien intelligence service. The Zephyrians were learning everything they needed to know to defeat human defenses. Lisa detected multiple hyperspace signatures approaching the system. More alien vessels were arriving, but these ships belonged to different species. The Zephyrians had contacted their allies and provided them with New Geneva's location. What had started as a pursuit operation was becoming a gathering of alien military forces. Ben worked desperately to remove the quantum tracers from their hull, but the alien technology was integrated into their ship's structure at the molecular level. The tracking devices could not be removed without tearing apart the Nighthawk itself. They were permanently marked, visible to alien sensors no matter where they went. Dr. Foster intercepted communications between the various alien species that had gathered in the system. The conversation revealed the true scope of the threat facing humanity. 12 different civilizations were represented in the growing fleet, all united by their fear of human expansion into their territories. The aliens had been sharing intelligence about human activities for months. Routine exploration missions looked like territorial scouting to species that had fought each other for thousands of years. Peaceful colonies appeared to be forward military, bases to civilizations that viewed all expansion as preparation for war. Jake realized that humanity's policy of secret observation had created exactly the kind of misunderstanding that Earth Command had hoped to avoid. By watching alien civilizations from hidden ships, humans had appeared to be gathering intelligence for military conquest. Every stealth mission had increased alien suspicions. Admiral Vextar broadcast a message to his coalition fleet that Dr. Foster translated with growing horror. The alien commander described human technology as far more advanced than his original intelligence reports had indicated. He spoke of their cloaking systems, their speed, and their ability to conduct surveillance operations across dozens of star systems. The Zephyrian leader painted a picture of humanity as a species that had been secretly preparing for galactic domination, while other civilizations remained unaware of the threat. He called for immediate military action to prevent humans from launching their planned conquest of known space. Kate detected more hyperspace signatures as additional alien fleets continued arriving in the system. The coalition was growing larger by the hour, with species that had never cooperated before joining forces against the perceived human threat. Fear was uniting former enemies in ways that diplomacy had never achieved. As Jake looked at the tactical display showing hundreds of alien warships gathering around New Geneva, he understood that their reconnaissance mission had accomplished something no human had ever intended. They had created the first galactic alliance in known history, and that alliance existed for the sole purpose of destroying humanity. The abandoned colony world had become the staging ground for an invasion fleet that would soon turn its attention toward Earth and its populated worlds. Jake and his crew were no longer scouts or prisoners. They were witnesses to the beginning of a war that humanity did not know was coming. The coalition fleet above New Geneva had grown to over 800 ships from 15 different alien species. Jake Morrison watched through the Nighthawk sensors as vessels that had never operated together began forming joint tactical formations. Fear of humanity was accomplishing what centuries of diplomacy had failed to achieve among these diverse civilizations. Admiral Vextar established his command center on the abandoned colony's largest orbital platform. The structure had been designed to coordinate human shipping traffic, but now it served as the headquarters for planning humanity's destruction. Alien technicians worked alongside each other, sharing military intelligence and tactical data with unprecedented cooperation. Dr. Foster continued monitoring the alien communications network, translating conversations between species that barely understood each other. The various alien leaders were debating strategy and sharing their knowledge of human activities. Each piece of information they exchanged painted humanity in a more threatening light. The Regellian delegation reported detecting human survey ships near their border worlds. The Altarians described mysterious energy signatures that appeared and disappeared without explanation near their trade routes. The Centaurians spoke of radio, signals they had intercepted that seemed to be coordinating activities across multiple star systems. Every routine human operation became evidence of a master plan for galactic conquest when viewed through the lens of alien paranoia. Exploration missions looked like territorial scouting. Scientific surveys appeared to be intelligence gathering for military purposes. Even peaceful trade negotiations seemed like attempts to infiltrate alien governments. Jake realized he was witnessing the birth of the first interstellar war based entirely on misunderstanding. The aliens genuinely believed they were acting in self-defense against a species that was preparing to conquer the galaxy. Their fear was real, even though the threat they feared did not exist. Kate accessed more files from New Geneva's computer systems, trying to understand how the situation had become so dire. She discovered that Earth Command had been conducting surveillance operations on 43 different alien species over the past 5 years. To human leaders, this seemed like reasonable caution. To the aliens being watched, it looked like preparation for invasion. Ben worked to establish a secure communication link with Earth Command, hoping to warn them of the approaching threat. But the quantum tracers attached to their ship were interfering with their long-range transmission systems. Any message they sent would be intercepted and decoded by the alien coalition forces. Lisa analyzed the tactical capabilities of the assembled fleet and delivered a report that made Jake's heart sink. The combined alien forces included over 3,000 combat vessels, while humanity's entire space navy consisted of fewer than 800 ships. Most human vessels were designed for exploration and light defense, not the kind of massive space warfare that was about to begin. Dr. Foster attempted direct communication with Admiral Vextar, hoping to explain humanity's peaceful intentions. The Zephyrian commander agreed to speak with her, but every word she spoke seemed to confirm his worst fears about human capabilities and intentions. When Foster mentioned Earth's defensive preparations and colonial expansion programs, Vextar heard threats of military buildup and territorial conquest. Her descriptions of human exploration missions sounded like reconnaissance operations to the alien military leader. Even her attempts to explain peaceful scientific research were interpreted as evidence of advanced technology development for warfare. The conversation deteriorated further when Ben accidentally triggered the Nighthawk's emergency beacon while trying to boost their communication signal strength. The beacon's quantum signature immediately broadcast the precise location of 17 major human colonies to every alien vessel in the system. Jake watched in horror as the alien fleet's navigation computers automatically updated their target databases with the new information. What had been intended as a call for help became a roadmap for invasion. The coalition forces now knew exactly where to find humanity's most important worlds. Admiral Vextar called an immediate strategy meeting with all coalition commanders. The alien leaders gathered on the orbital platform to plan their campaign against human space. Dr. Foster intercepted their communications and provided translation that revealed the scope of the coming disaster. The aliens had decided to launch a preemptive strike against human colonies before Earth's military could complete what they believed was preparation for galactic conquest. They planned to divide their forces into multiple attack groups, hitting several human worlds simultaneously to prevent any coordinated defense. The Zephyrians would lead the main assault force against Earth itself, while other alien species targeted the outlying colonies. The coalition commanders estimated that they could neutralize the human threat within 6 months if they acted quickly and decisively. Kate discovered that the aliens had been monitoring human communication networks for much longer than anyone had suspected. They had intercepted military training exercises, colonial defense drills, and routine security communications from dozens of human worlds. To the alien intelligence services, these normal activities appeared to be preparation for the largest military campaign in galactic history. Ben calculated the time it would take for the alien fleet to reach human space once they began their invasion. His analysis showed that the nearest human colonies would come under attack within 4 weeks. Earth itself would face assault in approximately 3 months. Lisa attempted to send a warning message to Earth Command using New Geneva's abandoned communication array. The signal would take weeks to reach human space, arriving only days before the alien fleet. Even if the message got through, humanity would have almost no time to prepare for the coming war. Jake made a decision that would define the rest of his life. He approached Admiral Vextar directly, requesting a face-to-face meeting to discuss terms for preventing the war. The Zephyrian commander agreed, curious to study the enemy leader who had led him on such an informative chase through space. The meeting took place on the orbital platform, with Jake flanked by his crew and Vextar accompanied by commanders from several alien species. The alien leaders studied the humans with scientific interest, trying to understand how such a seemingly ordinary species had developed such advanced technology and strategic capabilities. Jake tried to explain that humanity had no intention of conquering other worlds, but his words fell on deaf ears. The aliens had too much evidence of human activities that appeared threatening when viewed from their militaristic perspective. Fear and suspicion had grown too strong to be overcome by simple denials. As the meeting ended without agreement, Jake realized that the war he had accidentally started was now inevitable. The alien coalition was too large, too committed, and too fearful to be stopped by diplomacy. Humanity would soon face the greatest threat in its history, and Earth Command had no idea what was coming. The coalition fleet had grown to over 3,000 vessels representing 22 different alien species. Jake Morrison stood on the observation deck of Admiral Vextar's flagship, watching as the largest military force in galactic history prepared for what they believed would be a defensive war against human expansion. In a desperate attempt to prevent the invasion, Jake had made the hardest decision of his military career. He surrendered the Nighthawk and his crew to Admiral Vextar, offering themselves as hostages in exchange for a temporary ceasefire. His hope was that direct contact might bridge the gap of misunderstanding that had created this crisis. The gambit had worked, but not in the way Jake had intended. Admiral Vextar was impressed by the human commander's tactical thinking and willingness to sacrifice himself for his species. Rather than viewing this as weakness, the Zephyrian leader saw it as evidence of sophisticated military strategy and strong leadership capabilities. Vextar made Jake an offer that revealed the true depth of the crisis facing humanity. The alien commander wanted Jake and his crew to serve as military advisors for the coalition forces. He had decided that humans were too dangerous to remain as enemies, but too valuable to simply destroy. The admiral believed that converting human leadership to his cause was the best way to handle the threat. Dr. Foster finally achieved a breakthrough in communication protocols that allowed her to convey humanity's true intentions to the alien leadership. She spent days working with translators from different species, carefully explaining that human exploration was motivated by curiosity and scientific advancement, not territorial conquest. The revelation came too late to prevent the war. The Coalition fleet had already dispatched advanced scout groups to human colonies. First contact between humanity and the galactic community was beginning at the business end of alien weapons, exactly the scenario that Earth Command's surveillance program had been designed to prevent. Admiral Vexitar showed Jake tactical displays that demonstrated the scope of the approaching disaster. The Coalition forces had identified 47 human worlds as primary targets. Each planet would face invasion by overwhelming numbers of alien troops supported by advanced weapons technology that humans had never encountered. Kate Sullivan worked with alien navigation specialists to understand how the enemy fleet planned to coordinate their attacks. The aliens had studied human communication networks and identified the key relay stations that connected Earth's colonies. By destroying these facilities first, they could prevent human forces from organizing any effective resistance. Ben Carter was brought to the alien engineering sections, where he observed technology that was decades ahead of human capabilities. The Coalition forces used weapons that could destroy entire cities from orbit, shields that could deflect any projectile humans could fire, and faster-than-light communication systems that made real-time coordination across the galaxy possible. Lisa Bennett analyzed the alien military organization and realized that humanity faced enemies who had been fighting wars for thousands of years. These species had developed tactics and strategies based on centuries of conflict with each other. Human military doctrine, based primarily on theoretical scenarios and small-scale conflicts, would be completely inadequate against such experienced opponents. Dr. Foster made one final attempt to prevent the war by proposing that she return to Earth as an ambassador to negotiate a peaceful resolution. Admiral Vexitar refused her request, explaining that the Coalition leadership no longer trusted human diplomatic initiatives. They had decided that military action was the only way to ensure their species' survival. The alien commander showed Foster intercepted communications from Earth Command that had been discussing responses to the disappearance of the Nighthawk. Human military leaders were considering expanded surveillance operations and increased colony defenses to the aliens. These defensive measures looked like preparation for accelerated conquest plans. Jake realized that every action humanity took to protect itself would be interpreted as evidence of aggressive intentions. The cycle of misunderstanding had become self-reinforcing, with each side's defensive measures appearing threatening to the other. War had become inevitable not because either side wanted it, but because fear had overwhelmed rational communication. Ben calculated that they had perhaps 6 months before the main Coalition fleet reached human space. The advance forces would arrive much sooner, beginning attacks on outer colonies within weeks. Even if Earth Command received warning of the approaching threat, there would be almost no time to prepare adequate defenses. Kate managed to send one final quantum burst transmission to Earth Command, containing everything they had learned about the alien Coalition. The message included detailed information about enemy capabilities, fleet composition, and planned attack routes. She knew the transmission would arrive only days before the alien fleet, but it might give humanity some small chance of survival. Admiral Vexitar offered Jake and his crew permanent positions in the Coalition military structure. The alien commander genuinely believed he was being generous by allowing humans to serve their new masters rather than face destruction. He could not understand why Jake refused an offer that would spare their lives. The Nighthawk crew was allowed to return to their ship under alien escort, but they were no longer free agents. The vessel had been fitted with Coalition tracking devices and weapon systems that could be activated remotely. They would return to human space as unwilling agents of the invasion force. Jake's final conversation with Admiral Vexitar revealed the tragic irony of their situation. The Zephyrian commander spoke with genuine respect for human capabilities and regret for the necessity of war. He believed he was acting to protect galactic civilization from a species that appeared to be preparing for conquest. As the Nighthawk departed New Geneva under alien escort, Jake looked back at the massive Coalition fleet that was preparing to follow them home. The orbital platforms around the abandoned colony had become the staging ground for humanity's greatest challenge. Lieutenant Kate Sullivan plotted their course toward human space. But now they were not returning as scouts bringing vital intelligence to Earth Command. They were returning as the unwilling architects of humanity's darkest hour, carrying with them the seeds of a war that would determine whether the human species had a future among the stars. Jake Morrison made his final log entry as commander of a free human vessel. His words captured the weight of responsibility that would haunt him for the rest of his life, regardless of how long that might be in the coming conflict. The reconnaissance mission that had begun with routine observation of an alien civilization was ending with the human scouts leading an invasion fleet back to Earth. They had gone out to watch aliens in secret and were returning with an entire galaxy of enemies who believed humanity represented an existential threat to all other intelligent life.